Spokenly, I haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I have dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Cape Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy N's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spokenly. Hi, it's Andy N from Spoken Label. Thank you today for streaming or downloading another episode of Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up on beginning of 2016 and as of speaking has currently nearly 300 sessions. The full archive is available on Spoken Label bandcamp.com. Although it is available for free for stream and download if you wish, I am always grateful for any sort of kind of donation to enable me to keep the running costs of this podcast going. And enjoy. Take care. Bye bye. Spoken Label.
Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house on a Wednesday evening. Rather cold Wednesday evening in England as well. We're over to a lovely city today, so I've got relatives in this city as well, who I've not seen for about 30 odd years, Toronto in Canada. So I'm hoping to get over there at some point in the future. And I've got a fascinating gentleman with me today as well, who got in touch with me fairly recently through matchmaker.fm about his book actually called The Resurrector, which came out in December. I'm going to let the gentleman introduce himself because I can't help from pronouncing his surname. I'm going to make a fool of myself. So obviously, Moshe, first of all, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them obviously where you're originally from. I know you've travelled around a little bit, haven't you? But yes, I know you're in Toronto and Canada at the moment.
Yes. Hi, Andy. Hi, everyone. So I'm Moshe Mikanovsky, and I'm originally from Israel. I was born and raised over there. And then in my mid-20s, I moved to the US. I was working over there for a few years. And since 2002, I'm in Toronto. I moved to Canada. And since then, I'm over here.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Like when you've gone from, obviously, like I said, you've gone from obviously like Israel to America, then Canada. So, what made you obviously tell us a bit about your background as in Israel first of all, then, because it's your background does come up a lot in this book, I think.
Yes,
in
it does.
Right way. So
it does. So the book, and we'll talk about it shortly. It has a lot of my background in there, although it's completely fiction. What actually made me move to America and then to Canada was my work. So in my day job, I'm in software development. I started as a software developer back in the army in Israel. And then I was working for a software development company that relocated me to the States. And then I moved with my family. I had two girls who were born in the US. And then we moved to Canada again with my job. And I'm still doing that. I'm a product manager in my day job. And I have a third daughter that was born in Canada. So we're a very multinational family.
You are. Now, obviously, reading your profile before, and obviously, we have to touch on this to a degree, but I really want to talk about your writing, as I'm sure. I know your job, people are wondering, which is an interesting job anyway. It's more interesting than my day job is. It's product management, where you started on the engineering side of things, didn't you, over 30 years ago, developing enterprise B2B software. So, which is obviously like, what made you want to start on your writing then? Because I know the story, I know behind it a bit, but I want you to tell people yourself.
Yeah. So first of all, in writing in general, it's being creative for me. Even as a kid, I was writing and doing different things. I also love painting. I love doing creative stuff in everything that I do. Even software development is actually quite creative. People think about it as like this, engineering or logical work, which it is, but it also needs to have some type of creativity. So many years ago, I tried to be like a visual artist, and Probably people will not be able to see it, but I have some painting behind me that you can see.
I can have it. I was going to ask you about that. Although your painting at the back of you there. That's
so I used to paint, and I used to try also to sell my paintings, but it's a much more elaborate effort, and it's also quite expensive sometimes with all the materials that you have to get. And then I realized, writing, I can write anywhere I want. I can pick up my phone and write on my phone or an iPad or a computer or a piece of paper or whatever it is. So the creative, and I still felt creative when I did that. So that's where the creativity was the main thing that really attracted me to do it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, because I'm definitely a believer myself, because obviously the day job I've got, I'm a civil servant and I work for the government, actually, nothing major, but it's like I travel to and from work every day on the bus, and I do a lot. I'm always scribbling all ideas down all the time. And I suspect that's where it came from you as well, did it? Probably when you were either in work or just quiet downtime, isn't it?
Yes, we didn't talk about the book I already published, but my next book that I'm working on is actually, I wrote it a few years ago on the subway on the way to work.
Oh, did
and
you? Wow.
it actually is about the subway. So I got
brilliant.
inspired by that as well to write a story that happens in the subway.
Oh, brilliant. Well, come on to that a bit then, because to be honest, I actually always like asking people towards the end of any sessions I talk to them is, well, what comes next? So you can get to tell you about that, to tell us a bit more about the end of that. I definitely want to hear about it. And I can ask you detailed questions about how it compares to obviously your debut novel that's come out. Now, I obviously know from your debut novel, you started this originally on the National Novel Writing Month, didn't you? So a few years ago.
Yeah. So what happened in 2013, actually, so it's been a while. My oldest daughter, she was in grade 9, and she decided, she's also very creative, and she loves writing. So she decided to do the NaNoWriMo and to try to write a novel. And she had an idea. Yeah. So she had an idea, and a few friends of her also from school decided to do it. And when she told me about it, I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I also have an idea. Let's do it together.
Oh, so that's fantastic. That you do it side by side with your daughter. Brilliant.
Yeah. So we did it together, and we actually, both of us were able to come up at the end of the month with 50,000 words story. So, which was very cool. We arranged a few parties in our home, like writing parties, because that's one of the things about NaNoWriMo is that people are writing together. It's almost like it's a writing party. Basically, we had the big table in the dining room, and my daughter and her friends and me, we're all sitting around it. We brought snacks. We were sitting there for maybe 5 hours during the weekend, and we just wrote and wrote and wrote. So it was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. I've done it. I do it for National Poetry Writing Month in April every year. But I'd never have the guts to actually sit down and actually try and do 50,000 word novel.
I never did it before, I can tell you.
How was that first experience? Obviously, like I said, it's like having that magical doing the work alongside it with your daughter. I know my wife's done it a few times, and she's always said it can be really, really hard work if you're not sure where you're going. Did you know where the book was going when you first got going with it?
No, I had no idea, actually. I had the nugget of an idea. So the book is called The Resurrector, and it's a translation from Hebrew, and the Hebrew the word is Mechaya Metim, which is the one that resurrects the dead. It's coming from the Jewish daily prayers. So every day in the prayers, there is a lot of words in the prayers, but that's one of the verses over there about God in the future will resurrect the dead. And I had this idea in my head: what happens if it's not like God, and it's not in the future, but someone these days has this ability to resurrect at least one person from the dead? Well, how it would interact, and how it would affect his family, and would anything change? So that was the nugget of idea that I had, and I didn't really know where I will, what will be the story. But all I knew is that I have my own experience, being born and raised in Israel, in the specific city where I was born and raised, which is a religious city, is quite orthodox. And I said, you know what, I will write what I know. I will put this family over there, and there will be this shiva. Shiva is the mourning period. So it's 7 days that family mourns after someone that died. And all I knew really is that there is this family. I don't know who is in the family exactly, but they're sitting shiva for someone, and then someone came in and they gives one person in the family the ability to see the dead or interact with the dead or do something with the dead. And my first idea was to create this parallel world, that he can go into this parallel world. I'm a big fan of parallel world stories, like Stephen King stories that has parallel worlds are the best, and any other type of parallel world stories. So that was my idea. At the end, it kind of morphed more into that something a bit different, because when you have a parallel world, you have to create a whole world and you have to create its rules and all of that stuff. And that's what I had to develop throughout the versions of the book. But in those first 30 days, from this nugget of idea, it just, as I was writing, I was like, oh, okay, I can put this person in, this person out, and I can maybe I will append this and that. And I had to find ideas for stories. So I was drawing from my own experience back in Israel and stuff like that. And that's how it all kind of merged and created.
Yeah, you can certainly see, like I was hinting at before with it, and that's why I found this really, really fascinating book to read, because you didn't go down the route I thought you were going to go down with it. When I got it up, I thought instantly, I could see it's been a very sort of American or maybe Canadian sort of book, but because of the personal touches you put into it and placing Israel like you did, it felt different all the way along. So that's why it's really, honestly, God, everybody, it's a really fascinating book. I really enjoyed what I've read of this. Now, I want to know, obviously, with it, I don't want to go into too much spoiler territory in it, because I want people to read the book, if I'm honest, right? But yes, what made you want to actually place all the different viewpoints in the book? Was that in the original draft, or did that come later?
It actually came in the original draft. So I have two main point of views, and I wanted to see, point of view is always that thing that you're playing with, and I wanted to kind of first of all experiment with both. So one of them is first person, another one is third person, but also I wanted to. It felt when the main character, one of the main characters is in this dreamscape or second world, I want it to be much more immediate, so the readers, when they read it, will feel it like they're with them right there, and they experience everything that they're experiencing. So it's almost like I felt I was that person standing there or doing this or seeing that or whatever. And what do I see all around me and what do I experience all around me? And the first person was much more relatable and straightforward.
Yeah, it's quite, I always found it interesting when you get novelists like yourself where they've gone along and that's what I did notice with it. When you're doing it, moving from third person to first person, was that a conscious decision at the beginning to do it like that?
I think it happens quite organically and quite fast when I started writing it. Yes, I remember. I still have all the versions that I wrote it, because every version I created a new copy and everything. So wow. It's been a while since I looked at the first one, but I think if I will look at it, I will still see this in there. Yeah.
Yeah. We said before, obviously, people read the bio. I know you started the book originally in 2013. So it's like that's some going that is like, I don't know if I'd have that stamina to keep going at it for 7 years. That's why, but.
Yeah, it's been a very long process for sure. And most of the time I was thinking nothing will happen with this book because, either I didn't finish it or I got mixed feedback from different people who read it or whatever it is. Or I send query letters to agents and I never heard from them. So it's very discouraging, So yeah, I had to persevere with that.
Yeah, I think I can see that straight away with it. It does feel to me like it's because of your background in it. There's definitely is a labour of love for you, this novel, as well as being a very good novel anyway. So, but I think I know because my second book, poetry book, took me 5.5 years to write, and I think probably like you, there's no danger I was going to drop it. But did you get to the stage you're wondering sometimes whether you're actually going to finish it sometimes in hindsight?
Yeah, many times, most of the time. What I did throughout the years is I love to learn about, processes and how to improve myself and stuff like that. So after I had the first manuscript, I actually read about editing, what do I have to edit and stuff like that. So I started editing and I created the second version, and then I printed the book, so I will have an actual book in my hand, so I will see it's real. And I kind of like edited on the paper. So I had the third version, and then I decided I need to learn more about it. I was just, winging it. So I went to University of Toronto. They have like continual educational school, and they have a program for creative writing. So I did that. I took classes in creative writings, and a lot of the projects and writings that I did over there were taken from the book. So I will get feedback from the teachers and professors and my other students in the classes, because we gave feedback to each other. And this really helped me to hone on many different aspects of my book. But it also kind of discouraged me sometimes, because one of the professors didn't seem to like my book at all, and I took it very personally. So that's the risk of that as well,
Yeah, of course.
But I definitely thought many times that it will never see the light.
Now, obviously, in our case, people are wondering, it came out in December last year, and I know it came out through a press as well. I'm trying to get the name now, which was obviously New Degree Press. Then, now, tell us about how you discovered New Degree Press. Then.
Yeah, New Degree Press is a hybrid publisher. So they are not like a regular publisher that you usually have to find an agent, and then they will buy your book and they will do most of the work for you. And then you get a specific percentage of the royalties. This one is a hybrid one where they will help you with the full publication. They will have the publisher name on it, but you retain the full amount, the full royalties and full ownership on the book. It's probably a bit closer to self-publishing than to traditional one, because at the end of the day, I self-published it myself on Amazon, on Kobo, on Ingram Spark, and this way it's available everywhere with NDP, with New Degree Press name on it, and I get the full royalties. One of the nice things about the program that really helped me is that learning process. So they took me like step by step through the entire process from the manuscript that I had. They greenlit it in the beginning, and then through a pre-sale. So we did a pre-sale together on Indiegogo. So I sold 160 copies of the book up front. And that sale, thank you. And that sale helped me also really pay for for the program. But at least I saw that there is interest. People will be with me to help me, make it better. Then I got an editor, and we were working through the edit for a few months, and I had beta readers from the pre-sales. So several readers that read the book as I was editing it and gave me feedback. So it made the book even better. And then copy editing and layout editing and design of the cover and help and getting different praise from the how to do outreach to people, so podcast and different type of marketing and social media and building your website. So there is a lot of stuff that they help the program learn, and I think that's for me was the main thing really, because I like to have a bit of a structure when I do things, and if I have to do it on my own, I sometimes don't create that structure, and that also one of the reasons why it took like 8 years, because I kind of like, okay, so what do I do next? I'm not really sure. Where here they told me this is what you have to do next, and here is the deadline, and it was very helpful for me to do that, and I learned through the process. So now I've gone through that once, and it's really been amazing.
Yeah, I think it's the nature of the beast, and the job you're doing is a very technical job. So it's just like, I think the same for me, the job I do, like you can learn to analyze things and think from point A to point B to point C to point D. I think the basics apply in your case there straight away. So I can tell that from chatting to you, very, very analytical. And it's like you just have to learn how to think to get into order, don't you? So now,
yeah,
I know also as well. I know you're also write short stories as well. And I want to obviously talk about this next. I know you've had a few bits and pieces published in the NABO review and Alina Lucer's flash fiction compilation. Now, tell us about, obviously, your stories in flash fiction and short stories. How do they compare then to your novel, for example?
Yeah, it's a very interesting. It's very interesting because I usually like the long form, but sometimes you have these nuggets of ideas in your head, and many of those short stories that I submitted and got published came from different exercises that I did while I was studying at the University of Toronto. So that was actually very helpful for me to try different things and not just the long form. With the long form, you can talk about a lot of things. You can bring different perspectives. You can make it, sometimes make it shorter, sometimes make it longer. With the short form, you're very limited with how much you can tell, and you still want to convey a whole story. So one of the things I actually did with my pre-sale, I at the end of because you have to kind of be in front of people, you have to sell. You have to be in front of people all the time. You have to encourage them to support you through this pre-sale. One of the things I did, I was actually in the middle on vacation in the Rockies, in the Canadian Rockies. So I told them, whoever is going to support me through this time that I'm on in the Rockies, I'm going to send them a postcard with a short story. So I bought these postcards. Yeah, I bought these postcards in the Rockies, and I had to write a story that will fit into the postcard. So you're kind of limited with the size that you have. You still want it to be engaging a bit, and you still want it to be like to have an arc from start, middle, and end. And I wrote this little story, and it's sometimes it's a bit like a poem, I guess. But sometimes it's more of a narrative because it has that story. I'm actually, I know that you write poetry and you're a poet. Poetry for me, it's a whole different things that I never understand. Even though I had to write it also, in
you learned stuff straight away, yeah. Oh yeah. I'm currently writing my first novel at the moment, and well. I'm learning from that, shall we say, right? So yeah, I know what you mean there completely. But that's great, that, because I think when you're trying to write something as anything that left short on the back of a postcard, it's like trying to write something like something that short and concise. But it's quite difficult, really. Yeah, and you probably found it is. I think it's a challenge. It's always good to have a challenge as a writer, anyway.
It's also very good for your editing skills, because what I did in the beginning, I wrote something on a piece of paper that I found. And then I was like, I drew on the same piece of paper the rectangle of my postcard size, and I tried to fit it in there. And I'm like, there is no way I can fit it in there. So I'm like, okay, so which words are not necessarily for the story? What can I cut out? So I started cutting out, and it's a really great exercise for that.
The only thing I found was when I've done poems and postcards to people, I want to know this about you as well. When you're writing the story onto the postcard, was your wrist absolutely aching like anything? You had to write it in really small handwriting.
It's not only that. These days, we're so not used to write by hand that it's like our muscles here are not as developed as they used to be when I was a kid.
That's true. That's true, yeah. I can remember that when I was 12 or 13, after not coming home from school, going to the library and reading writing books, trying to learn how to write. And I used to write page of notes I did, because there wasn't a photocopy back then. Nowadays, if I tried that, my wrist would be absolutely, like you said, absolutely knackered after half an hour of it.
Yeah.
Oh, complete. Oh, brilliant, mate. Okay, now, to start wrapping things up now, there's a couple of things I want to ask you about today before we wrap up, really. I know you've got a podcast going at the moment as well yourself, haven't you? So tell us about the podcast then, just so people who want to check it out.
Yeah, the podcast is unrelated to my authorship. It's more related
people should know about.
Yeah, for sure. So. No, absolutely. It's called Product for Product, and what we talk over there, I have a co-host, Matt Green. He's from Atlanta, and we're talking about products or software products that product managers are using for their work. So we're basically learning together all the different products that are out there, and we have guests that are talking about their experience using those products. And it's a service for the product management community out there to understand what's available out there, what's the pros and cons and stuff like that.
Brilliant. Obviously, people want to check it out. That can be checked on all the usual networks and stuff straight, I presume, can't it? So
yes, it is.
Brilliant. Okay. Obviously, to conclude with your writing now, then. Obviously, we're going to backtrack now. Then listen to 25 minutes ago, and we're going to talk about what's coming next. I know you've got another novel on the go.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about this novel, then, the Subway novel. Then. Obviously, we don't need to give too much away. Was this another National Novel Writing Month exercise for you, or was it something different this one?
No, it's actually, I wrote this one in 2014. So after I did the one in 2013, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Let's do it again. So I wrote this one in 2014. And like I mentioned, I did it, most of it I wrote on the subway from the way to work and back in the TTC. It's the Toronto Transit Commissioner system. And it's actually happened on the subway. So the name of the book is Lady Subway, or Working, probably that's going to be the final name because it's a good name. And it's kind of a bit of an urban mystery or whatever it is. And it's the premise is actually very, when I tell it to people, they really enjoy the premise. So I think that there is a good story over there. But the premise is that the announcer, the electronic announcer or the recorded announcer on the subway station or the subway system, she's fed up and she doesn't want to do her work anymore because she's doing in and out, day in and day out. And she kidnaps one of the cars with all the people in it.
Ooh.
And then what happened after that?
Yeah, we'll say no more, right? Definitely that. So I'll get you back on when this next novel comes out because I want to read that one definitely. So
yes.
Now, obviously, sorry, pardon me.
yeah. I actually have. I put on my website. I put a form for people to, or I don't know if it's public or people that bought my other book, but I can also send it to you, so you will see that. I'm looking for like 20 beta readers that will help me shape the book. And what I will do is I will send them a chapter every week and get their feedback and stuff like that. So that will be an interesting experience.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get in touch. I wouldn't have the time to do that. I'm way too busy. But it does sound a fascinating book. So what stage are you up to with this book then at the moment then?
It's I have a first draft. I don't, the ending is not good yet. So I'm still thinking about the ending, but I started kind of editing it into a second draft. And I hope that it's not going to take as long as the previous book. I hope it will take not more than a year from now. But that's my aspiration at the moment.
Well, fingers crossed here, definitely. Obviously, I don't want to give too much away in the book, but how has the process so far been on the second book in contrast to the first book? Because obviously the first book, you felt like you learned a lot from it. Do you think it's been a lot smoother, the second book so far? Yeah,
I think that it's a much more like I have the rhythm. So it's more about the rhythm and to find the time to do it and to enjoy doing the editing and stuff like that, which I do enjoy. It's also about trying not to repeat myself, meaning that it's another book, it's another story. It's not a repetition of the first book. So I want it to be fresh as well. So the theme is different. The characters are different. The location is different. It happens in Toronto, so it's much closer to home now. But it's still, I think it's more about the rhythm and knowing what I'm doing more now that makes it much easier.
Yeah, no, I get the feeling I'm chatting straight away. Well, good luck with it, definitely. So keep us informed. Well, love to have you on again in the future when that's complete.
Thank you very much.
Now, obviously, to wrap up part one, then, obviously, it's time to hard sell now, as I always say. So if people want to find out more about you, where's the website, first of all, and where can people get your book, etc.?
Yeah, so my website is my last name, Mikanovsky.com. So it's MIKANOVSKY.com. And over there, the main page, I have two sections for my author and for my product. So if you go to author.mikanovsky.com, that's where all the author stuff. And I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So you can search me on LinkedIn and connect with me. I will be happy to connect with anyone. And then also I'm also on Instagram. So it's moshe.mikanovsky.author. And I'm also on Facebook, but I'm usually mostly on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. That's fine. Sounds good to me. Have a check it out, honestly. I picked this book up, only a few days ago, and it was at the moment on Amazon in the UK, it's 79 pence for a download, and that's well worth your time straight away with that, because
Yes.
I've had a great time reading this one, going to and from work last few days, so recommend it. Okay,
Perfect.
well, we'll take a quick break now, guys and girls. We'll see you all in 2 minutes, and then we're going to come back with an extract from the book. So, right, see you soon.
Thank you.
Spoken Label.
Hi, guys. Yes, we're still here with the wonderful Moshe. Now, over to you, my friend. I know you're going to read out a bit from your book for us today.
Yes, so I will start with the author notes because I think that can convey a lot about the book. Then if we have a bit more time, I will start with the first chapter. So this is the author notes from the Resurrector. The story of the Resurrector is fictional unless you believe that someone can come back to life. All characters and the stories are a complete work of fiction and came from my imagination. If they remind you of someone you know, it is merely a coincidence. But do you believe in some type of resurrection? Part of the book is just that. What if? When I read works of fiction, I always try to find a nugget in the core of it all, the question that the author explored when writing the story. These can be extreme life situations or magical ones. And this was my what if. What if someone can bring back someone from the dead? Would it change anything for their loved ones? The obvious answer is, of course, it would. Near-death experiences change people's perspective on life, making them appreciative of the important things they have and focus on them. But let's think about it a bit deeper. Would it? If they had their issues before, would they be able to overcome them just like that? Egos, belief systems, social pressures, these all can be stronger than, well, death. So I started exploring. I placed it in the environment I know, my homeland Israel and home city, the religion I was born into and grew up in, and my childhood and adulthood, and the characters started forming themselves. They started interacting with each other and with their environment. Words came into their mouth and thoughts into their heads. It was important for me to keep them authentic. While I have lived for the past 25 years in North America, I wanted to ensure the characters and their story do not lie. They had to be true to the place and people I love. My hope is that I showed them justice. It's hard to do it in stories. They're limited to their themes, and the story has to move forward. But in too many Israeli stories, both in books and movies, the focus is mostly on the extreme. The Israel-Palestinian conflict, the ultra-Orthodox person who leaves the religion, the Holocaust survivors, and the generational gaps with their descendants. Some do appear in the Resurrector as well, but they are not the main focus, and I hope they do not overshadow the main theme, that family relationships and love are for here and now, for the living. Let's not wait until it's too late. And this theme, my friend, is eternal. If it has no culture or religion, it is here for you and everyone on earth. No matter our background, the deity we believe in, what we look like within and without. This is what makes us human. So here I bring to you the Resurrector, a story that is rooted in time and place, but unrooted in thoughts and feelings. It has some mystery, it has some magic, but most of all, it is a work of love. I hope you enjoy it. Prologue. Friday. Abba Shalom. Ram took a deep breath, the phone handset pushing hard into the palm of his hand. Ram, hi, how are you? What a pleasant surprise. I was just thinking about you. That was his father's usual greeting. It had been a week since they last spoke, and his father sounded the same as always. I'm okay, but I don't know what is going on with Nir. Before he had a chance to continue, Chaim erupted on the other end of the line. You know, I don't want to hear his name or discuss him. Why do you even have to remind you? Just don't mention him to me. His words were clipped and abrupt. Ram imagined his father standing in his kitchen by the counter, a coffee mug in one hand, the daily paper spread out in front of him, forgotten, the cordless phone in the other hand, a thick vein bulging at his temple. You have to hear me this time, Ram shouted into the phone, angry with his father for never listening. He's missing. It was not how he planned to say it. The line went quiet. His father did not hang up, but he did not say anything either. Ram's pulse was beating hard like a drum in his ears. His hand sweaty, he switched the phone to his other hand, wiping the sweat off his army uniform pants. Ram told Chaim everything that happened since his sister, Millie, called hysterically from the Ulpana High School after waiting for hours for their brother Nir to show up. He spoke quietly, afraid his father would stop him mid-sentence. When he finished, Ram paused to breathe and to collect his thoughts. A long silence on the line. What could he say? I think that's good.
Brilliant stuff. No, brilliant, mate. Great stuff, that. Is I'm really glad you read out the intro, Nick. So when I read the intro, obviously, a few days ago on the Kindle, it really set the scene for it. I think sometimes, and I've been treating all your reactions as well, when you do what you've done in your book there, sometimes it can be over egging the pudding, if you know what I mean. I think in your case, you had to give that sort of background, didn't you?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that I wrote the intro with the encouragement of New Degree Press, because that's part of how they like to do things. And I never think about it before, why I write the story, what the story is about, and all the themes. I thought about it, but not in a way that make me sit down and really write it and write it down. So that was a really great way to do that. And when this came up, it was like, oh, wow, there is something there that is really can talk to anyone, not just to me, not just to people that are Jewish or from Israel, but to everyone, because everyone has families and everyone have someone that they know that they lost, and sometimes the relationships are great, sometimes they're not. So there is really something for everyone.
Yeah, I think so, straight away with it. So I've got a friend in Israel. I'm going to follow that and we'll forward this book over to her. Send the link over, see if it's her cup. See, she might like you, interested in it as well.
Thank you.
So I interviewed a young lady from Israel last year, I think it was, who was a poet. So I'm going to send it over and see if it's her, see what she thinks of this as well. So if I get a load of swearing, come back my direction, which I don't want, I won't, right? So, but anyway, seriously, okay. Thank you today again, my friend. It's been really a fascinating session.
Thank you, Andy, very much. That was a pleasure.
Hang around.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure chatting to you as well. Hopefully have you on again in a year or two down the line, definitely when you're ready. Now, hang around, because I do need to speak to you off microphone. But
sure,
as Spoken Label always says, as Don Callis, formerly of Impact Wrestling, says, stay safe and stay over. And we'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Spoken Label.